The night hung heavy over New Lagos, a haze of purple smog glowing against the neon veins of the city. Beneath the floating towers of the upper rings, where glass bridges shimmered with corporate light, the lower sectors drowned in shadow and salt air. Amara Johnson wiped her hands on a rag, smearing black oil across her already stained coveralls. The hum of broken turbines surrounded her, the endless pulse of survival. She was 19, a mechanic with more dreams than credits. Her workshop sat on the edge of the Atlantic platforms, where the ocean had long swallowed the old coast. Rusted boats served as homes. Flickering hollow signs promised jobs that never came. She adjusted her headscarf, its pattern glowing faintly in the dark, and whispered, "One day I'll see the stars for real." Above her, the night cracked open. A streak of fire tore through the smog, splitting the sky like a wound. It wasn't a meteor. It moved too fast, too deliberate. Amara froze, eyes wide, as the burning craft screamed toward the ocean. The impact shook the platforms, sending a spray of salt water and metal fragments into the air. She hesitated only a second before grabbing her repair drone and sprinting toward the crash site. Her boots clanged against the catwalks, breath ragged. Every instinct told her to stay out of it. Coalition patrols didn't like humans meddling in off-world affairs, but curiosity had always been her curse. When she reached the wreckage, the air burned of ozone and alien fuel. The shuttle, sleek, obsidian and cracked open like an egg, pulsed with fading blue light. Inside, tangled in wires and smoke, lay a body, not human. The figure's skin shimmered faintly silver under the haze, armor torn and blood, if that bright liquid was blood, seeping from his side. His features were sharp, almost painfully beautiful, with markings that glowed along his jawline. He coughed, and the sound was musical, strange, like words half-formed in a forgotten dialect. Hey, stay with me," Amara said, kneeling beside him. Her voice trembled, but her hands were steady. She reached for her tool bag, pulling out her med-patch kit. The drone hovered, scanning. "You understand me?" His eyes opened, gold, luminous, full of pain and pride. "Who are you?" His accent wrapped around the words like silk over steel. "Amara. I fix things," she said quickly. "And right now, you're one of them." He tried to rise but collapsed again. "No, they'll come for me." "Then we better make sure they don't find you." She dragged him out just before the first searchlights cut through the smog. Coalition patrols, silver ships gliding low, their sirens echoing like judgment. Amara ducked under a broken bulkhead, her heart hammering. The alien groaned in her arms, his armor sparking. She didn't know who he was or what crime had brought him down, but instinct whispered something deeper. This moment mattered. "Hold on," she said. "You're safe for now." The patrols passed overhead, lights sweeping. Amara waited until the sound faded, then hauled the alien toward her workshop. Her muscles screamed, but she didn't stop. The city pulsed around her. Music, shouts, engines, and for the first time she felt like she was moving towards something bigger than her world of rust and survival. Inside the workshop, she sealed the doors and lowered him onto her repair table. His breathing was shallow, his pulse erratic. She patched his wound with her best gel, rerouted energy from an old plasma cell, and prayed her hands were enough. When the alien stirred again, his gaze fixed on her. "You saved me." Amara gave a half-smile. "Don't thank me yet. You're still bleeding, and I still don't know your name." He hesitated as if the words carried weight. "Kyle," he said finally. "Prince Kyle of Orion." Her heart skipped. A prince of Orion? That was impossible. Humans didn't meet princes. They cleaned their ships. But he wasn't lying. Amara leaned back, exhaling slowly. "Guess I just broke every coalition law in the book." Kyle's lips curved faintly. "Then you're already braver than most." Outside, the night roared with distant sirens. The galaxy had just shifted, and neither of them knew it yet. Morning came without sunlight. In the lower rings of New Lagos, dawn was just a paler shade of grey seeping through the smog. Amara hadn't slept. Her small workshop was filled with the soft hum of old machinery and the faint rhythmic breathing of the alien prince lying on her work table. Every time Kyle stirred, the faint glow of his markings pulsed through the dim light like living circuitry. Amara sipped cold tea, her hands trembling. She'd hidden fugitives before, people escaping debt collectors or illegal labor gangs. But this was different. A prince of Orion. If the coalition found him here, she wouldn't just be arrested. She'd disappear. Kyle's voice broke the silence. "How long have I been unconscious?" "Almost 10 hours, she said, adjusting the med patch on his chest. "Your system's been stabilizing, but I don't have alien-grade equipment. You should be dead." He gave a faint smile. "I'm not that easy to kill." "Good for you," Amara muttered, then hesitated. "Why were you in orbit over Earth?" "Orion nobles don't just fall from the sky for fun." Kyle's eyes flickered, golden light dimming. "You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Try me." He turned his head toward the window where faint siren lights danced across the fog. "Someone in my own court betrayed me. I barely escaped alive." Amara frowned. "And now you're hiding in the poorest part of the planet." "Smart move, Your Highness." He looked at her unamused. "You mock me, yet you saved me. Why?" She didn't have an easy answer. The question cut deeper than she expected. "Because I know what it's like to have nobody," she finally said. "And because if I left you out there, the patrols would have torn you apart." Kyle studied her in silence, his gaze unreadable. "You risked everything for a stranger." "I didn't have much to risk," she said quietly. "But I've got rules. You help those who fall. That's how we survive down here." A long silence settled between them. Outside, the city's pulse grew louder. Air traffic, engines, and the echoes of a world that didn't care who lived or died in the shadows. Amara checked her console. Coalition signals were moving closer to her district. Her stomach tightened. "They're scanning the lower rings. You need to stay quiet and out of sight." Kyle pushed himself upright despite the pain. "If they find me here, you'll be executed." "Then let's make sure they don't." He looked at her, surprised at the firmness in her tone. "You defy the coalition?" She smirked. "I've been defying them since I was 12. For the first time, Kyle laughed, a strange musical sound that made Amara pause. "You are unlike any human I've met. Most of us are invisible to you," she said. "You only see the ones on your hollow screens, the ones begging for trade deals or cleaning your stations." Something shifted in his expression, guilt or realization, she couldn't tell. He lowered his gaze. "Perhaps that is why your kind is underestimated. You endure what others would not." Amara didn't know what to make of that. Compliment or pity? It was hard to tell the difference coming from someone born among stars. The scanner on her console beeped sharply. Patrol drones were closing in. "Damn," she whispered. "They're sweeping this sector." Kyle reached for a weapon that wasn't there, then grimaced at the pain in his ribs. "If they come, I won't let them take you with me." "Relax, Prince Charming. I've got tricks." She pulled a tarp over him and dimmed the workshop lights. The drone's hum grew near, vibrating through the thin walls. She held her breath as beams of blue light scanned the room. Her heart thudded in rhythm with the sound, a war drum in her chest. After a tense minute, the light faded. The drones moved on. Amara exhaled slowly, then turned to him. "See? You're still alive." Kyle's voice softened. "Because of you." She shrugged, trying to mask the trembling in her hands. "Don't make it sound noble. You owe me now." Kyle tilted his head. "And how does one repay a human debt?" Amara smiled faintly. "Start by not dying in my workshop." Outside, the hum of the city rose again, unaware that history had just taken a sharp turn in its forgotten corners, and somewhere above the smog, the coalition ship circled, hunting for the prince who had vanished into the shadows. The next day bled into New Lagos with thunder and heat. The air was thick, buzzing with tension and the constant hum of hovering patrol drones overhead. Amara's workshop felt smaller than ever, walls trembling each time a ship passed. Kyle was awake now, sitting upright, his wounds sealed, but his pride wounded deeper than any scar. He watched Amara move between her tools, patching a broken drone while keeping a cautious eye on him. The silence between them stretched until Kale finally spoke. "You risked everything to save me, yet you treat me like a burden." Amara didn't look up. "Because you are one. You're an alien prince with bounty hunters scanning half the city. You're bad luck wrapped in pretty armor." Kyle's lips curved into a smirk. "And yet you keep me here." "I keep you alive," she corrected. "There's a difference." He studied her quick hands, her tired eyes, the determined set of her jaw. "Humans on this planet live in poverty. Yet, you possess the skill to repair advanced technology. Why stay here?" Amara shrugged, wiping grease from her hands. "Because leaving costs money and the Coalition doesn't give visas to people like me. Like you. Poor, human." "From the wrong sector," she said bitterly. "You think your people see us as equals. We're just a labor class, good enough to fix your machines, not good enough to share your air." Kale's expression shifted, shame flickering across his golden eyes. "I didn't choose that system." "No," she said, her tone softening. "But you benefit from it." He didn't answer. For the first time, silence weighed heavier than argument. Amara glanced at him, noticing how his posture slumped slightly. Less prince, more man. "You really don't remember how you crashed?" she asked. Kyle's brow furrowed. "I remember an ambush. My ship's navigation was corrupted from within. Someone wanted me dead before I reached the summit on Orion Prime. So your own people betrayed you?" "Yes. And now the Coalition will call it an accident. My death will make peace easier for them." Amara leaned back, crossing her arms. "And if they find out you're alive?" "Then war," he said simply. "A war humanity wouldn't survive." Her pulse quickened. "Then we make sure they don't find out." Kyle turned his gaze toward the faint light filtering through the metal shutters. "You would protect me, even knowing what's at stake?" "I'm already a ghost in this city," she said. "If they take you, they'll come for anyone who helped. Might as well fight for something that matters." His eyes softened. "You remind me of someone from my world, a warrior queen who led her people against impossible odds." Amara chuckled dryly. "Don't start with flattery. I'm not your queen. I'm just trying to keep my head attached." "Still," he said, voice low, "I owe you a debt." She froze. "Debt?" "In my culture, saving a royal life binds the rescuer to the royal line. You have earned a vow of repayment, a life debt." Amara frowned. "That's not how it works here. You don't owe me anything. Just survive, and when you're strong enough, disappear." Kyle shook his head. "No, you misunderstand. This vow cannot be broken. My honor, my lineage demands it." "Honor doesn't pay rent," she muttered. He smiled faintly. "Then I will pay with more than credits. When I return to Orion, I will ensure you are never forgotten." Amara stared at him, unsure whether to laugh or believe him. "You really think you're going back?" Kyle's golden gaze held a quiet fire. "I will, and when I do, I will remember the human girl who saved a prince from ruin." Amara looked away, unwilling to meet that intensity. The storm outside rumbled louder, shaking the workshop. Somewhere above, the Coalition's loudspeakers announced new curfews. She forced a small smile. "Just don't die before you make good on that promise, Your Highness." Kyle tilted his head slightly. "Kyle," he corrected softly. "If I'm to live among humans, I should be called by my name." "Fine then, Kale," she said, picking up her wrench. "Welcome to the lower rings." Outside, the thunder grew into a roar, an omen of the chaos that would soon reach them both. The tension in New Lagos grew thick enough to taste. A cold, electric fear settled over the lower rings as Coalition patrols tightened their grip on the city. Metallic voices echoed from drones hovering above, broadcasting warnings in a dozen alien dialects. "Citizens of Earth Sector 9A remain indoors. Any interference with royal investigation will result in termination." Amara listened from inside her workshop, arms crossed, jaw tight. Her world, already fragile, was closing in. Every alley had scanners, every neighbor whispered rumors. Someone said an alien prince had been shot down. Someone else swore they saw soldiers near the docks. Amara didn't correct them. She just worked faster. Cale stood by the window, his silhouette outlined by the neon haze. His body had regained strength, but his eyes, those radiant golden eyes, carried exhaustion. "They're searching for me," he said softly. "Yeah," Amara replied without looking up. "They're tearing through every sector. Even the ones that can barely feed themselves." He turned toward her. "I should leave before they find you." She dropped her wrench with a metallic clang. "And go where? The Coalition's got satellites, scanners, and half the damn galaxy watching for your face. You step outside, they'll vaporize you before you can blink." Kyle's hands tightened into fists. "I won't let you suffer for what I've done." Amara met his gaze. "What you've done is crash into my city and bleed all over my work table. I made my choice, Cale. You're my responsibility now." His voice lowered. "You speak as if you are not afraid." "I am," she admitted, the honesty sharp as glass. "But fear's a luxury down here. We live with it like smog in our lungs." The power flickered. The old generator whined in protest. Somewhere nearby, the sound of boots echoed. Uniformed steps, disciplined and inhumanly precise. Coalition soldiers. Kyle's eyes flared faintly as he reached for his cloak. "They're close." Amara grabbed his arm. "No. You move. They'll detect your energy signature. Sit down, stay quiet." He hesitated but obeyed, lowering himself back onto the stool. She killed the lights, plunging the workshop into darkness. The only illumination came from the faint glow of Cale's markings, which she quickly covered with an old cloth. The soldiers' voices carried through the metal walls, deep, mechanical, devoid of mercy. "Sector scan incomplete. Proceeding to next perimeter." Amara held her breath, heart hammering so loud she feared they'd hear it. Cale's hand brushed hers, steady and warm. For a moment, the chaos outside faded, replaced by a fragile thread of connection neither fully understood. After what felt like hours, the footsteps receded. The drones drifted away, their hum swallowed by the city's noise. Amara finally exhaled, leaning against the wall. Kyle's voice was barely above a whisper. "You saved me again." She gave a dry laugh. "You're really testing my luck," he smiled faintly. "In Orion culture, there's a saying, 'Those who protect the fallen carry the weight of the stars.' You've carried me twice now." Amara rolled her eyes, but a small smile tugged at her lips. "You and your poetic space talk. You're lucky I'm too tired to argue." The console beeped suddenly, flashing red. Coalition surveillance had intensified, dozens of patrols moving closer to the lower districts. She scanned the feed, her stomach sinking. "They're sweeping door to door. It's only a matter of time before they reach us." Kyle's tone turned solemn. "If they find me, they'll destroy this place. Everyone nearby will die." Amara slammed her fist against the console. "I know that." The silence that followed was thick, almost suffocating. Outside, thunder rolled through the smog. Finally, she looked up at him. "You said someone betrayed you. Maybe they're tracking you through something. Your armor, implants, whatever alien tech you've got. Can you disable it?" Kyle's brow furrowed. "Perhaps. But it would require exposure to your power grid." "Then do it," she said. "I'll reroute the current from the turbine tower. It'll buy us time." He hesitated, studying her. "You would risk your life again for a cause not your own." Amara smirked, exhaustion hiding behind courage. "Guess it's a bad habit." As lightning flashed beyond the smog, the two stood amid humming machines and fractured hope. One human girl and one alien prince, bound by a secret that could ignite a galaxy. The generator's low hum filled the silence as Amara reconnected the final cable. Sparks flickered against her face, sweat beading along her temples. The air inside the workshop was heavy with ozone and tension. Kyle sat nearby, his armor removed, exposing faint circuitry beneath his skin, pulsing softly like veins of light. "Are you sure this will work?" Amara asked, wiping her hands on her pants. Kyle nodded slowly. "If the tracker is embedded in my neural implants, your power surge might disrupt it. But the process will hurt. She crossed her arms. You survived a crash from orbit. You'll live. He managed a small smile. You speak as if you know my pain thresholds. I don't need to, she said, flipping the switch. I just need this to buy us time. Electric current surged through the cables, washing the room in blue light. Kyle's body stiffened, his jaw clenched as energy rippled through him. His markings flared, bright enough to blind. Amara's stomach twisted. She wanted to shut it off, but forced herself to wait. 1 more second, 2. Then the light dimmed. Kyle slumped forward, breathing hard. The workshop reeked of burnt circuitry. Amara rushed to him. Kyle! Say something. His eyes opened slowly, faintly glowing gold again. It's done. The signal is gone. Relief washed over her, followed by anger. You scared the hell out of me. He met her gaze, still weak but smiling. Then we are even. You scare me every time you defy the impossible. Amara rolled her eyes. Save the charm for someone who cares. But she couldn't hide the flicker of relief in her chest. She sat beside him on the floor, both of them breathing in sync, surrounded by the sound of humming machinery and distant thunder. After a while, Kyle's tone softened. Your people, how do you endure this? What? This life, he said. The noise, the hunger, the fear. Yet you laugh. You help. You fight. My kind has forgotten how to live without privilege. Amara looked around at her cluttered shop, the patched walls, the flickering lights, the smell of old oil. We don't have a choice, she said. We make do with what's left. You stop waiting for the universe to care and start fixing what's in front of you. Kyle's eyes lingered on her, thoughtful. Your strength humbles me. Don't say that, she murmured. You sound like you're writing poetry again. He chuckled, then winced at the pain in his ribs. Perhaps your bluntness is what this galaxy needs. Before she could answer, her console beeped sharply. Coalition frequencies, encrypted transmissions flooding the airwaves. She scanned the feed, her stomach tightening. They're changing tactics, she said. They're using civilian data to triangulate energy signatures. They'll be at the lower rings by nightfall. Kyle's expression darkened. Then I have doomed you. Amara slammed the console shut. Stop saying that. You didn't doom me. The system did. Her voice trembled with anger. Not at him, but at the world. We've been doomed since the first coalition ship landed here and told us we weren't worth the air we breathe. Kyle's jaw tensed. Then perhaps it's time they remembered who humans are. She looked at him, surprised. You sound like one of us. He smiled faintly. Maybe I'm becoming one. They sat in silence again, the weight of his words hanging between them. Outside, thunder rumbled closer, echoing through the metal towers like the heartbeat of something awakening. Amara finally stood. If we're going to survive, we need supplies and information. I'll check the market for parts. You stay hidden. Don't touch anything that glows or hums. Kyle arched a brow. You doubt my restraint? I doubt everything, she said with a grin. That's how I'm still alive. As she grabbed her coat, Kyle's voice followed her. Amara. She turned. When this is over, he said quietly, you will not live in the shadows again. That, I promise. Amara met his gaze, uncertain whether to laugh or believe him. We'll see, Prince. She stepped out into the storm, leaving Kyle alone in the flickering light. Behind her the machines hummed, and somewhere in that electric rhythm destiny began to stir. By nightfall, New Lagos was boiling. The air vibrated with shouts, sirens, and the metallic whine of patrol drones cutting through the smog. Amara moved through the crowded walkways, her hood pulled low. Every face she passed looked tense, hungry, desperate. The coalition's lockdown had turned the lower rings into a pressure cooker, and the heat was about to blow. She reached the market district, where flickering neon signs cast fractured light over metal stalls. Food prices had tripled overnight. Power was rationed. People argued, traders shouted, children cried in the shadows. The smell of sweat and ozone mixed with burning oil. Amara's heart pounded, not from fear but anger. At a corner she met Tariq, her childhood friend, sharp-eyed and always one step ahead of trouble. You shouldn't be out here, he said, glancing around. The patrols are on edge. They're arresting anyone with a toolbox and an attitude. Amara handed him a small satchel of parts. I need these converters. No questions. Tariq frowned. What are you building this time? A miracle? Something like that, she said. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. Word is, the prince they're hunting crashed near here. People say he's still alive. Tell me that's not your problem. Amara hesitated, then forced a smirk. You believe everything you hear? I believe what gets people killed, Tariq muttered. And I know that look, Mara. You're in deeper than you admit. She didn't answer. A sudden explosion rattled the platforms, sending waves of screams across the market. Drones swarmed overhead, firing stun rounds into the crowd. People scattered, overturning stalls. Amara grabbed Tariq's arm. Run! They ducked behind a wall as a drone swept past, its spotlight slicing through the smoke. The lockdown's over, Tariq panted. They're calling it a containment protocol. That means martial law. Amara's eyes narrowed. Containment, my ass. They're scared. Something's shifting and they can't control it. When the noise died down, she made her way back to the workshop through back alleys, heart racing. Kyle was waiting, pacing like a caged storm. You heard the explosions? He asked. I was there, she said, throwing down the satchel. Your people are choking my city. They call it investigation, but it's occupation. Kyle's jaw tightened. I never ordered this. No, but your empire did, she shot back. And we're the ones paying the price. For a moment, the air between them was fire. Kyle turned away, his hands trembling. Amara, I swear if I could stop them, then stop hiding, she snapped. You have power, Kyle. Use it. He faced her, eyes burning gold. Power without position is a weapon turned inward. If they know I live, they'll burn this planet to ash. Then they'll burn it anyway, she whispered, because that's what empires do. Silence, the kind that cuts deeper than any blade. Amara pulled open a panel on the wall, revealing a cluster of old communication circuits. We can jam their scanners temporarily, she said, but I'll need help rerouting the grid. Kyle stepped forward. Show me. For the next hour, they worked in unison, sparks flying, metal hissing. Amara guided the wires while Kyle's alien touch fused them with luminous precision. The connection between them was wordless but electric, built on necessity and trust. When the last circuit engaged, the city lights flickered. The coalition's scanner signals dropped for the first time in days. Somewhere outside, the people of New Lagos cheered. They'll think it's a system failure, Amara said, catching her breath. That gives us a few hours. Kale looked out through the shutters, watching the faint glow of the uprising spreading. Your people are fearless, she smiled faintly. We've been at the bottom so long, there's nowhere left to fall. Then, from far below, a sound rose, the rhythmic pounding of fists on metal, a chant building in the darkness. No more chains! No more lords! Amara froze. Tariq's voice was among them. Kyle turned to her, realization dawning. It has begun. Her chest tightened. Yeah, she whispered, and we just lit the match. The city no longer slept. Smoke curled through the skyline as fires burned across the lower rings. Coalition patrols clashed with protesters in the streets, stun rounds flashing like lightning. The uprising Amara helped ignite had turned into chaos. Her comms buzzed constantly, messages from neighbors, mechanics, and workers asking for help, guidance, hope. But she had no answers left. Inside the workshop, Kyle paced, restless. Your people are dying out there, he said. We must do something. Amara slammed a metal plate onto the table. We are doing something. We're keeping you hidden so the coalition doesn't bomb the whole damn city. His voice rose, frustration leaking through his calm veneer. Hiding does not stop oppression. Action does. Amara met his gaze, fierce and tired. Easy to say when your name still means something. Before Kale could answer, the door beeped twice, their signal for allies. Amara moved to open it, only to freeze when she saw Tariq standing there, sweat-soaked and trembling. Thank the ancestors, he said, stepping inside. You're alive. Amara exhaled with relief. I thought you got caught in the riots. Barely made it out. His eyes darted around the room, landing briefly on Kale. The tension in his shoulders tightened, but he forced a grin. You weren't lying about fixing something big, huh? Amara folded her arms. We don't have time for jokes. What's happening out there? Tariq ran a hand over his head. The coalition's locking down the ports. They're calling it planetary quarantine. Nobody in, nobody out. But listen, I got word from a transport captain. She can get you off-world, no questions asked. Kyle frowned. Impossible. The coalition monitors every flight path. Tariq smirked. Not this one. It's an old smuggler route. I can get you both to the docks if you leave now. Amara hesitated. Her instincts screamed caution. How do you even know a smuggler captain? Tariq's grin faltered. I know people. Just trust me, Mara. You've done enough for this city. It's time to run. Kyle's voice softened. If we go, what happens to your people? Amara turned away. They'll keep fighting. But something about Tariq's urgency gnawed at her. His hands trembled too much. His gaze avoided hers. And beneath his jacket, she caught a faint metallic glint. Tariq, she said quietly, what did you do? He froze. What are you talking about? Kyle stepped forward, eyes narrowing. He's wearing a locator tag. Tariq's face went pale. It's not what you think. Amara's chest tightened. Tell me you didn't. I had no choice, Tariq shouted. They took my sister Mara. The coalition has her. They said if I gave them the prince, they'd let her go. The words hung heavy in the air, crushing and final. Kyle's markings glowed faintly, his voice calm but edged with sorrow. You led them here. Tariq's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, I thought I could warn you, get you out before they arrived. A low hum filled the room, the unmistakable sound of approaching drones. Amara grabbed him by the collar, fury trembling in her hands. You sold us out, he choked out. Please, Mara, they'll kill her. Kyle placed a hand on her shoulder. Let him go. Anger will not save us now. Amara shoved Tariq away, disgust and heartbreak warring inside her. Get out. He hesitated, guilt written across his face, then flared into the night just as the first blast rocked the street. The walls shuddered. Amara turned to Kale. They've found us. Kale's eyes flared gold. Then we make them regret it. The roof cracked open as drones poured in, beams of white light slicing through the smoke. Amara grabbed her plasma wrench. Kyle raised his hand, energy pulsing at his fingertips. Stay behind me, he said. Not a chance, she snapped. As the first drone fired, Amara ducked and struck back, sparks flying. Kale unleashed a surge of alien energy that ripped through the air, disabling the swarm. The workshop burned around them, walls collapsing in bursts of light. When the noise finally died, Amara's lungs ached from smoke. Kyle was kneeling, weakened, but alive. Tariq, she whispered. Kyle looked toward the shattered door. His betrayal will not be the last. But neither will our defiance. Outside, the sirens wailed, a city on fire, a friendship in ruins, and the galaxy about to take notice. The air on the transport ship was sterile, cold, and heavy with silence. Amara sat shackled to a steel bench, her wrists aching from the restraints. Across from her, Kyle sat upright, his golden eyes dim but unbroken. The coalition soldiers surrounding them didn't speak. They didn't need to. Their silence was the weight of judgment. Amara stared at the floor, guilt and rage twisting in her chest. Tariq's betrayal had led to their capture. Her city was burning, her people hunted, and now the prince she'd risked everything to save was being dragged to trial. You should have left me, Kyle said quietly. Amara's jaw tightened. And let them kill you. I don't abandon people. You might have survived, he replied. Now they will punish you for my defiance. She met his gaze. Then let them try. The ship shuddered as it entered orbit, engines roaring like distant thunder. Outside the window, the dark curve of Orion Prime loomed, a world of towering spires and silver oceans, heart of the coalition empire. Amara's reflection looked small against its brilliance. A poor human girl born in the shadows, now carried to the heart of the galaxy's power. When they landed, light flooded the bay. Guards in obsidian armor escorted them through marble corridors lined with banners of the royal sigil. Every step echoed like a countdown. The people they passed, aliens of varying forms, stared with thinly veiled disgust. Humans didn't walk these halls unless they were servants or prisoners. At the end of the corridor, massive doors opened into the High Council chamber. The air was cold enough to sting. 12 councillors sat in a crescent of light, their faces glowing with authority. At the center stood the regent, Kyle's uncle, tall, immaculate, his expression carved from stone. "Kyle of Orion," the regent said, his voice like thunder. "You stand accused of treason against the coalition and your royal lineage. Do you deny it?" Kyle raised his chin. "I do not," the chamber murmured. The regent's eyes flicked toward Amara. "And this human, she harbored you, concealed your identity, and aided your crimes. What say you, girl of Earth?" Amara swallowed hard. "My name is Amara Johnson," she said, "and I didn't aid a criminal. I saved a man." Laughter rippled through the chamber, soft, cruel. The regent's lips curled. "A man? He is a prince, born above the likes of you. You dare equate yourself to royal blood?" Kyle's voice cut through the noise. "Enough." The regent's gaze snapped to him. "You will be silent." "I will not," Kyle said, standing. "You speak of blood as if nobility grants morality. I have seen the undercities of Earth. I have seen hunger in the eyes of children, while you sit here gilded in comfort. If this is the order I was born to preserve, then I stand guilty of breaking it." Gasps filled the chamber. The councillors leaned forward, their faces tense with shock. The regent's tone dropped to a venomous whisper. "You shame your family, your crown, your people." "I honor them," Kyle said firmly. "By remembering that power without compassion is corruption." The silence that followed was absolute. The regent turned toward the guards. "Strip him of his title. Exile him beyond the outer systems. Let his name be erased from the royal record." Amara lunged forward. "You can't—" A guard struck her across the shoulder with a stun baton, sending her sprawling. Kyle moved instinctively, but the soldiers pinned him down. "Do not touch her," he roared, energy sparking from his hands. The floor cracked under the surge, a flare of gold light erupting before he collapsed, restrained by magnetic cuffs. The regent looked down at Amara. "The human will be dealt with separately. Let this be a lesson to all who defy their place." As the guards dragged Kale away, his eyes found hers. Despite the pain, he smiled faintly. "Do not break, Amara. They cannot chain what they fear." Her throat burned as she called out, "Kale!" But her voice was drowned in the echoing hiss of the chamber doors sealing shut. For the first time, the galaxy had witnessed an Orion prince defy his throne, and the tremor of that rebellion was just beginning to spread. The holding cell was small, metallic, and bitterly cold. Amara sat against the wall, her wrists still bound, her breath forming faint clouds in the sterile air. She didn't know how long she'd been there, hours, maybe days, but every minute replayed Kale's exile in her mind. His defiance, his words, they cannot chain what they fear. She whispered them again and again like a prayer. Footsteps approached. A guard appeared, a tall alien with translucent skin and eyes like liquid silver. "You've been charged with interference in royal affairs," he said. "Sentence, labor service on the outer moons." Amara lifted her head, voice hoarse but steady. "Outer moons? You mean the death mines?" He didn't respond. He only gestured to the door. As they escorted her through the corridor, she noticed the whispers. Workers, drones, even a few guards turned to look. Some muttered, "That's the human." Others stared with something new in their eyes, something that looked like hope. When she was shoved into a transport pod, a woman across from her leaned close. Her skin shimmered with faint scales, eyes bright green. "You're the one who helped the prince," she whispered. Amara hesitated. "How do you know that?" "Everyone knows. They streamed the trial across the systems. You stood up to the regent." "A human in the high chamber. You're a legend now, Amara almost laughed. Legends don't end up in cages. The woman smiled sadly. Sometimes that's exactly where legends are born. The pod rattled as it launched into the void. Outside the window, Orion Prime faded into a silver-blue dot. Amara's hands trembled, not from fear but from the realization that Kale's words had spread further than either of them imagined. Days passed in transit. The guards didn't speak, but the whispers among the prisoners grew louder. Stories changed with every retelling. Some said Amara had stolen the prince's ship. Others claimed she'd fought the regent herself. She didn't correct them. Let the myth grow. If it gave people courage, it was worth the lie. When they arrived at the outer mining station, the stench of iron and sweat hit her like a wall. The sky was a permanent dusk, illuminated by the mining rigs that carved through black rock. The guards handed her a pickaxe and pointed to the endless tunnels. Work or starve, she worked. Hour after hour her muscles burned, her hands blistered, her lungs filled with dust. But at night, when the prisoners huddled together in the dark, she spoke. She told them about Earth, about New Lagos, about the smell of the ocean after a storm, about laughter even when the world was falling apart. She told them about Kale, the prince who had dared to speak truth to power, who had looked at a poor human girl and seen an equal. At first, they listened in silence. Then they began to whisper her words to others. Within a week, entire barracks repeated her stories like gospel. The Prince of Orion lives, they said. The human girl defied the stars. One night, an older miner named Jorah pulled her aside. They're forming cells, he said quietly, all across the moons. People want to fight back. They're using your name as their call sign, Amara's Light. Amara stared at him, stunned. I'm not a leader. Too late, Jorah said with a grin. You already are. She looked out toward the horizon where the mining lights flickered like dying stars. Something inside her, something small and fragile, began to ignite. If Kyle's sacrifice had started this, then she would finish it. Not as a symbol, not as a victim, but as herself. The next morning, when the guards ordered the workers into the tunnels, Amara raised her voice instead. No more chains, she shouted. At first only a few echoed her. Then dozens, then hundreds. The ground shook as the chant spread through the mines, through the outposts, through the networks. No more chains. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, the message reached the right ears. Kyle drifted in the silence of deep space, a man stripped of name and crown. His ship was little more than a refugee vessel, a smuggler's freighter modified for stealth. The stars stretched endlessly before him, indifferent and cold. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Amara's face, fierce, defiant, burning brighter than any constellation. He had been exiled to die quietly on the fringes of the galaxy, but the galaxy was no longer quiet. The whispers had reached even the void. The human girl who defied the council. The fallen prince who spoke truth. Their names were spoken together like a prophecy. Kyle leaned back in the pilot's chair, watching the navigation lights blink across the black. His companion, a grizzled Orion engineer named Dareth, adjusted the console. You're famous again, your ex. He stopped, catching himself. Kaisel. Kaisel gave a tired smile. Fame is a fragile thing. It burns fast and leaves ash. Dareth snorted. Not this time. The outer colonies are in revolt. They're using your speech at the trial as a rallying cry. Even the miners on the fringe worlds are chanting that human's name, Amara. Kale's hand tightened on the armrest. She's alive? Dareth hesitated. Rumor says she's leading something. A movement. But rumors out here are like ghosts. They tell the truth only by accident. Kyle's pulse quickened. The thought of her alive, still fighting, ignited something in him that exile had nearly killed. Set a course for the outer moons, he said. Dareth blinked. That's suicide. The coalition patrols every route. Kyle's gaze was steady. Then we won't use a route. They jumped through uncharted slipspace, a violent corridor of energy that shredded navigation systems and tore weaker ships apart. The freighter groaned like a wounded beast, alarms blaring. Dareth cursed, gripping the controls. You'll get us killed for a rumor. For a promise, Kyle said. Hours later, the ship emerged battered but intact. Before them stretched the shadowed belt of mining moons, ashen worlds dotted with industrial scars. Kyle felt the weight of guilt press against his chest. These were the places his empire had forgotten, where humans and lower-class aliens labored until death. He tuned into the open frequencies, static, then voices, raw, urgent, alive. "Repeat, this is Amara's Light, Sector 12. Kyle froze. The voice wasn't hers, but the name echoed like thunder. Amara's Light. She had become a legend. He closed his eyes, letting the transmission wash over him. "Hold the line!" a miner shouted through the signal. "For Amara! For freedom!" Dareth looked at him. "They think you're dead. If you show up, it could unite them or destroy everything." Kyle exhaled slowly. "Then we must choose carefully how to return." They landed on one of the smaller moons, Tyron III, a wasteland of metal and dust. The outpost below was more graveyard than city, yet life pulsed beneath the surface. People gathered around makeshift transmitters, spreading stories through illegal networks. Kyle walked among them unnoticed, cloaked in a hood. He saw murals painted on broken walls, Amara's likeness, fist raised, eyes blazing. Beneath her image, words were etched in dozens of languages. No more chains. He touched the paint with trembling fingers. "You changed the galaxy, Amara," he whispered. A child tugged at his sleeve. "You know her." Kyle smiled faintly. "Once." The boy grinned. "She says we don't bow to kings no more." Kyle chuckled under his breath. "I believe she means it." That night, as he watched the sky burn with distant ship fire, Kyle made his decision. He could not reclaim his throne, nor erase his bloodline's sins, but he could fight beside the woman who had taught him what freedom meant. "Prepare the comms," he told Dareth. "Send this message across every unregistered frequency. The prince lives, and he stands with the human who defied the stars." Dareth hesitated. "That'll wake the entire coalition." Kyle's eyes glowed faintly gold. "Good. It's time they remembered who they fear." The uprising had no flag, no anthem, only a voice that refused to be silenced. Across the mining moons, the chant of Amara's Light thundered through the comm waves. What had begun as a whisper was now a storm. The coalition's networks jammed daily, overwhelmed by pirate transmissions, spreading messages of resistance. And at the heart of it all, Amara Johnson stood, scarred, exhausted, unbroken. Her name had become larger than herself, but she refused to vanish behind the myth. Each day she worked with miners, engineers, and exiles to build an underground alliance. The air smelled of fuel and rebellion. The tunnels that once echoed with the clang of labor now buzzed with planning and hope. Jorah entered the command bay, carrying a battered comm tablet. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "The Prince Kael is alive." Amara froze. Her fingers tightened around the railing. "What did you say?" "His message is everywhere, broadcast from the outer sectors. Says he stands with you, with humanity." The words hit her like a pulse through her veins. Kael, alive, defiant, unafraid. Her throat felt tight. "Are you sure it's real?" Jorah grinned. "Half the coalition's losing its mind trying to stop it." "I'd say that makes it real enough." Amara turned away, her thoughts a storm. She had buried the grief of his loss under duty, forced herself to keep fighting. Now the idea of him alive stirred something dangerous. Hope. By nightfall, the outpost filled with restless energy. Miners gathered around flickering screens replaying Kael's transmission, his golden eyes burning with conviction, his voice steady as steel. "Freedom," he said, "is not a gift from kings. It is the breath of all who dare to rise." The room erupted in cheers. Amara stood at the back, silent. For a moment, she let herself believe. Then she felt the weight return. Hope, if mishandled, could break a movement faster than fear. Later, as the base quieted, she retreated to the old storage hangar, their makeshift sanctuary. Jorah followed, leaning against the doorway. "You should rest," he said. "I can't," she replied. "The coalition's regrouping. They'll come in force next time." He studied her. "You talk like a soldier, but you're something else, Amara. You make people believe again." She shook her head. Belief doesn't stop bullets. No, he said, but it makes people stand in front of them. Before she could answer, the intercom crackled to life. Incoming vessel. Unregistered signature, a voice called. Docking on Bay 3. Amara stiffened. No one approached without clearance. She grabbed her plasma wrench and moved fast through the corridors, her pulse sharp with adrenaline. The hangar doors hissed open, releasing a gust of cold air. Out of the mist stepped a figure cloaked in grey, his posture proud, his presence unmistakable. Kyle. Amara's breath caught. He looked different, leaner, harder, his eyes carrying the quiet fire of exile. For a long moment, neither spoke. The sound of distant engines filled the silence. Finally, she said, "You're supposed to be dead." He smiled faintly. "So are you." Her grip on the wrench loosened. "You shouldn't have come here. The Coalition's hunting us both." "I came because you lit a fire in the dark," he said. "You showed me what my people forgot, that freedom isn't inherited." "It's built." She looked away, fighting the tide of emotion. "We're not winning, Kale. Every time we rise, they strike harder. Then we rise higher," he said firmly. "Together." Jorah stepped forward, disbelief written across his face. "Wait, are you saying you'll fight with us? A prince of Orion?" Kyle met his gaze. "Not a prince. A man who owes his life to a woman who changed the galaxy." Amara's lips parted, but no words came. The rebellion wasn't hers alone anymore. It had become something greater, something bound by more than rage or revenge. She nodded slowly. "Then let's give them a reason to fear us." Kyle smiled, a spark of the old pride flickering in his eyes. "The galaxy won't forget this night." And as the alarms began to wail, signaling another attack, Amara felt it, the shift from survival to destiny. For the first time, the rebellion didn't just have a name. It had a heart. The Coalition's control fractured like glass under pressure. Outposts rebelled, ship crews mutinied. Entire planets began whispering the same forbidden words, Amara's light. The Empire tried to drown the noise with propaganda, but truth spread faster than fear. And now Amara and Kale were ready to ignite the final spark. The command chamber of the Resistance base thrummed with energy. Screens glowed with stolen frequencies, coded transmissions and hacked Coalition channels. Amara stood at the center, her eyes sharp, her voice calm despite the chaos. "We do this once," she said. "One message, every system, every colony. After that, they'll shut us down." Jorah adjusted the transmitter core. "You're sure this'll reach the High Council networks?" Kyle nodded. "It will. I designed those systems myself." Amara smirked. "Good. Then you can help me break them." Kyle's smile was small, tired, and full of pride. "It's poetic. A prince tearing down his own empire." As they worked, the hum of machines filled the air. Resistance fighters moved with urgency, patching cables, checking power grids. The broadcast would take everything they had left. When the system came online, the lights dimmed. Amara looked around the room. Faces of humans, aliens, outcasts, all bound by the same cause. She felt the weight of their trust settle on her shoulders. Kyle stepped closer. "You don't have to be the one on camera," he said softly. "Yes, I do," she replied. "They've seen enough kings. It's time they hear from someone who had nothing." He didn't argue. Instead, he reached into his coat and pulled out a small metal insignia, the royal crest of Orion, cracked down the middle. "Take it," he said. "If they see this, they'll know I stand with you." Amara accepted it, her fingers brushing his. "Then let's show them what truth looks like." The countdown began. 5 seconds. The crew cleared the room, leaving only Amara and Kale by the central console. The red light blinked once. The transmission went live. Across the galaxy, screens flickered. In mining colonies, trade ships and royal courts, a young woman appeared, her dark skin marked by ash and defiance, her eyes blazing with determination. "My name is Amara Johnson," she began. "I was born on Earth, in the lower rings of New Lagos. I was told my life meant nothing, that humans were too small to matter, that we were destined to serve. She held up the broken insignia. They told the same lie to their prince, but lies can't hold forever. Not when people remember what freedom feels like. Her voice rose, steady and powerful. We have lived in the shadows of those who called themselves gods, but today we stand in the light of our own making. We are not property. We are not subjects. We are the heartbeat of this galaxy, and we will no longer kneel. On hundreds of worlds, laborers stopped working. Pilots froze mid-flight. Soldiers lowered their weapons. Amara continued, her voice soft but unyielding. To the people of Orion, I say this. The Empire is not your master, it is your burden, And to the Council watching right now, your time of silence is over. She paused, glancing at Kyle. He gave a single nod. Amara leaned closer to the transmitter. This is not a war of humans against aliens. This is a war of the forgotten against the powerful. You can erase our names, burn our cities, exile our leaders, but you cannot kill what we've become. The signal surged, spreading beyond the coalition's borders. Ships relayed it. Pirate satellites boosted it. Even enemy systems echoed her words. Amara finished quietly. We are coming for the dawn. The transmission cut. The room plunged into darkness, powered down from the energy surge. For a long, breathless moment, no one spoke. Then the comms crackled. Messages flooded in from across the stars. Cheers, declarations, promises of alliance. The galaxy had heard. Kyle turned to her, awe softening his features. You just shook the universe. Amara smiled faintly, exhaustion in her eyes. Good. Let's make sure it doesn't fall back asleep. The galaxy burned. Coalition fleets clashed in orbit over Orion Prime, their elegant silver ships locked in chaos. Worlds that once bowed to the Council's authority now roared with rebellion. Amara's broadcast had ignited the impossible, a war not for territory or wealth, but for truth. From the command deck of the Aurora's heart, Amara watched the holographic map flicker with hundreds of red and blue markers. The resistance had spread farther than anyone imagined. Civilian ships fought beside deserter fleets, farmers beside soldiers, slaves beside nobles who had finally chosen shame over silence. Jorah's voice crackled through the intercom. We've got orbital signatures, heavy class. The Regent's flagship just arrived. Kyle stepped beside her, armored once more, the symbol of Orion now etched in ash instead of gold. He's not here to negotiate, Kyle said. No, Amara replied. He's here to erase us. Kyle looked at her, and for a brief second, the storm outside faded. Whatever happens next, remember, this fight began because of you. It began because the galaxy was listening, she said. I just gave it a reason to speak. The deck shuddered as railfire ripped through the atmosphere. Sirens wailed, fighters launched from the hangars, their trails streaking like fireflies through the darkness. Amara gripped the railing, forcing her voice steady. Send word to every ship. We hold the line. The communications officer hesitated. Ma'am, they outnumber us 5-1. Amara's eyes hardened. Then make every one of us count for 10. Kale turned toward the viewport, his golden gaze reflecting the distant explosions. My uncle will not stop. He would rather burn Orion than share it. Then we show him what sharing fire looks like, she said. Hours blurred into battle. The resistance fleet moved like a living storm, every victory paid in blood and metal. Amara's voice filled the channels, guiding ships, rallying fighters, breathing life into the chaos. Kyle commanded from her side, his knowledge of coalition strategy turning near death into survival. But the Regent's fleet advanced relentlessly. His voice finally broke through the comms, cold, imperial, venomous. Kale of Orion, nephew, surrender now, and I may grant your human pet a merciful death. Kale's expression froze. Amara felt a flash of fury surge through her. You talk too much, she said, switching to broadcast, and your time's over. She cut the transmission before the Regent could reply. How long until the energy cores are charged? She asked. 6 minutes, Jorah answered, but if we fire the main cannon, we'll drain the shields completely. Kyle looked at her. If we don't fire, We lose everything. She met his gaze. Then we don't miss. The Aurora's heart powered up, its core glowing blue-hot beneath their feet. Outside, the Regent's ships closed in like predators. Kale placed his hand over Amara's on the console. For every world they silenced, he said. For every voice they tried to erase, she added. The cannon fired. A beam of searing light tore through the void, splitting the Regent's formation in half. The shockwave cascaded across the fleet, disabling cruisers and scattering drones. For one glorious moment, silence reclaimed the stars. Then the retaliation came. The Regent's flagship unleashed a barrage that tore through the Resistance's shields. The deck erupted in sparks. Alarms blared. "Shields at 2%, shouted Jorah. Kyle turned to Amara, his face illuminated by the flickering lights. "We can't hold this position." "Then we don't," she said, voice steady. "We move forward." The words carried through every ship. The battered fleet pushed onward, ramming enemy vessels, igniting the dark with bursts of defiance. Outside, Orion Prime burned, a symbol of both ruin and rebirth. Kyle reached for Amara's hand as the ship trembled. "No matter what happens," he said, "they'll remember you." She smiled faintly. "They'll remember us." Above them, the sky was fire. Below, the galaxy held its breath. The fate of empires now rested in the hands of those who had nothing left to lose. The war ended not with an explosion, but with silence. For 3 days, the fires over Orion Prime dimmed, leaving behind drifting ruins and broken stars. What had once been the heart of the galaxy's empire was now a graveyard of ambition. The Coalition's command network was gone. The Regent's flagship lay shattered in orbit, its transmission towers silent for the first time in centuries. On the surface, amidst the ruins of the Royal Citadel, Amara stood beneath a bruised sky. The air still shimmered with the residue of battle, ash, static, and faint echoes of the millions who had fought for freedom. Her armor was scorched, her voice hoarse, but her spirit unbroken. Kyle approached from behind, his movements slow, deliberate. He no longer wore his royal insignia. The gold had been stripped from his uniform, replaced by the grey of common steel. His eyes, once brilliant and proud, now carried the humility of a man reborn. "It's over," he said quietly. Amara didn't turn. "No. It's just beginning." He stopped beside her, gazing at the horizon where dawn struggled through the smoke. "The Council's gone. The fleet's surrendered. The people have begun rebuilding. What more could we fight for?" Amara exhaled, her breath visible in the cold morning light. "Justice isn't rebuilt overnight. The same hands that held whips yesterday are already reaching for pens today. Someone has to keep them honest." Kale gave a tired smile. "Then you'll have a lifetime of work ahead. Maybe more than a lifetime." They stood in silence, listening to the wind sweep through the ruins. In the distance, banners of different colors waved from makeshift camps, human, alien, hybrid, each representing a piece of the fragile alliance that had survived the war. Kyle spoke softly. "The Provisional Council is meeting within the hour. They're expecting me." "Expecting their prince," Amara said. He shook his head. "Their former prince. I'll tell them the truth. That royalty has no place in a world born from rebellion." She glanced at him, studying his face. "You'd give up the throne?" "I already did," he said. "When I chose you over it." The words hung between them, raw and honest. Amara looked away, her heart heavy. "Kale, I didn't fight to sit beside a king. I fought to make sure no one ever needed one again." He nodded slowly. "Then let's make sure of it." They walked together through the broken corridors of the Citadel, past fallen statues, scorched murals, and cracked marble floors that once echoed with the steps of rulers. The air smelled faintly of burned metal and rain. Every surface bore the marks of history being rewritten. When they reached the council chamber, hundreds were gathered, miners from the moons, former coalition officers, refugees, engineers, and farmers. None wore uniforms, none bowed. The galaxy had changed. Kyle raised his voice. "I, Kale of Orion, renounce my claim to the throne and name Amara Johnson the first human ambassador to the new Galactic Federation. The crowd stirred, whispers rising like wind. Amara's eyes widened. Kale, he continued, unwavering. She began this. She carried light where there was none. If this galaxy is to be reborn, it must begin with the voices it tried to silence. The room erupted in applause, loud, raw, full of emotion. Amara stood motionless, her heart pounding. She wasn't ready for titles. She wasn't ready for the weight of hope. But looking into their faces, the miners, the fighters, the children, she realized she didn't need to be. Kale leaned close, his voice barely above a whisper. The dawn belongs to you now. Amara smiled faintly. No, Kale. It belongs to all of us. As the first rays of sunlight broke through the clouds, they washed over the chamber, glinting off shattered glass and hopeful eyes. The age of empires had ended. The age of unity had begun. Years passed. The wars became history, their ashes feeding the soil of new worlds. The banners of rebellion faded into symbols of unity. What once was a galaxy ruled by fear now pulsed with cautious hope. In New Lagos, Earth's skyline had changed. Floating towers shimmered above restored oceans, and the air carried the hum of interstellar traffic. The city that had once been forgotten now served as the beating heart of the new Galactic Federation. Children played near the old docks, where the waves still smelled faintly of oil and salt. Their laughter echoed through the streets, named after the heroes of the Revolution. But one name stood above the rest, Amara Johnson Boulevard. Amara walked there now, her pace slow but steady. Time had lined her face with experience, not weakness. Her hair, streaked with silver, caught the morning light. Though age had tempered her fire, it hadn't dimmed it. She stopped before a towering memorial of black stone engraved with thousands of names, the fallen from every species who had fought for freedom. At its base, carved in both English and the ancient Orion script, were the words, "No more chains." Kale's reflection appeared beside hers on the polished surface. He was older too, though his alien features changed slower than hers. His golden eyes still carried the same quiet warmth. "You're still avoiding the press," he said gently. "I prefer real people," Amara replied, her tone dry. "Reporters only want stories. People need truth." Kale smiled. "The Federation Council meets today. They'll ask again about the monument on Orion. They want you to unveil it yourself." Amara shook her head. "This galaxy doesn't need another statue of me." "Maybe it needs a reminder of what you stood for," he said. She turned to him, eyes thoughtful. "No. It needs to remember why we stood at all." For a moment they watched the sunrise over the city, the same sun that had witnessed both her poverty and her triumph. Kyle's voice softened. "Do you ever regret it? The path you chose?" Amara smiled faintly. "Every day. And I'd choose it again every time." She started walking toward the harbor, the same place she'd once dreamed of leaving behind. Children waved at her, calling her name. Some carried small flags with the Federation crest. Others wore necklaces bearing her symbol, a simple gear intertwined with a star. "Ambassador Johnson!" a young woman shouted, rushing to her with a hollow recorder. "Please, just one question. What do you think the future holds for humanity now that the Federation is stable?" Amara paused, her gaze steady. "The future doesn't belong to humans alone. It belongs to everyone who's willing to fight for it, and everyone wise enough to share it." The woman smiled, recording every word. "Thank you, ma'am. The people still look to you." Amara's expression softened. "Then make sure they look forward, not back." As the reporter left, Kyle stepped beside her again. "You're still better at speeches than you admit." She laughed quietly. "After all these years, I've learned that words only matter if you live them." They reached the pier where her first workshop had once stood. Now a monument marked the spot, a life-sized sculpture of a young mechanic holding a wrench toward the stars. Beneath it, a plaque read, "From the lower rings to the edge of the galaxy, she fixed what was broken." Kyle studied the statue. "Do you ever miss the old world?" Amara tilted her head. The rust, the struggle, the noise? Sometimes. It made me who I am. He smiled. And what are you now? She looked toward the horizon where ships rose into the sky, Human, Orion, and dozens more flying side by side. Just a girl who wanted to see the stars, she said softly. Kale nodded, following her gaze. And now the stars see you. Amara took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of the dawn spread across her skin. No, she whispered, her voice carrying like a promise. They see us. Above them, the morning sky shimmered with the light of 1,000 worlds united, not by power, but by the legacy of one woman who dared to believe that even the smallest hands could hold the future,